Just want to welcome you to Walkerville Baptist Church and just thank everybody for just coming out tonight. And we just are excited about y'all being here tonight and excited about what y'all done. And just want to, just come back and just tell y'all thank you and congratulations and all for just the way y'all represented our community and represented, Pierce County. And it's just been awesome to see. And most of you already know your way around here. You've been out here with football team or either volleyball tournament, but when you go through this door right here, if you take a left, there's some men's restrooms right there. Around the corner, the women's is right there on your left when you go through the door. There's another one right here to your right as you go through that door right there. When we go to the social hall to eat, if you want to wash your hands or whatever. But that's just kind of some logistics. I don't think we'll be needing a nursery tonight, so I ain't gonna worry about telling you where that's at. But what I kind of want to do tonight is just God had just laid it on my heart to do a short devotional, and then I just want to kind of use a verse and just kind of let you know just what God thinks about the hard work and the sacrifice y'all made, and we're gonna go eat, man. Y'all know that most of y'all have been here before. You know that chicken's back there with some tea sauce, man. That's like redneck steak. So, man, I'm excited about getting to eat too. I love it. But I want to talk the kind of devotional tonight. The thing I want to talk to you about tonight is in the book of John, and it's a verse, and what I wanted to do was just really talk about something that you know better than anybody, and it's that y'all are brothers. Y'all are like brothers. I know y'all not blood brothers, so to speak, but man, y'all just got like a brotherhood between one another. Most of y'all have been playing ball together since y'all were playing t-ball. Y'all been around each other, and there are probably some of you in here that you've even been playing ball together, and every time you step on the field or you've been in the dugout, except for maybe a few occasions, some of these guys in here have been in there with you. And so y'all been together a lot, man. I know the past 4 years, I look at like Caleb and Stetson and Madison and other guys. There may be some other guys who play football too that are seniors, but I remember whenever y'all came here as freshmen with the football team and just seeing you wide-eyed and your eyes big, and you're just glad to be a part of what's going on and trying to make your place. And now you're seniors now, and you're getting toward the end of your ride in high school. But it's like a brotherhood. I mean, y'all are so tight, people don't understand it. I probably don't understand it at all, the way that y'all do, but y'all understand what it's like to be together. Y'all understand how you appreciate one another. Just how you've been together doing all these things, and probably, over the past 4 years, those of you that are seniors, there's probably been a lot of months that you spent more time with these guys here than you even have some of your own family. You just get really tight and you get really close, because one thing that y'all do, and y'all might not go with guns and tanks and all those things, but when y'all step on that field, y'all go to war together, and you fight battles together. You're there late at night with one another. You go through ups and you go through downs together. So it forms a brotherhood. And I actually seen a version of y'all 20 years later, and it was amazing to me to watch. I went to a funeral a couple of months ago, and I was sitting there watching, and these guys had graduated for about 20 years, and so they were old, like me. And I was sitting there watching them. I actually didn't have to, do the funeral or any parts in it, so I was sitting back there, and I was watching what went on. And this guy who had passed away, he was in his 30s, but he had played baseball, and so all the baseball team basically, or the guys he had played football with too, they were kind of in one area up there. And I was just sitting there watching it. And it was so interesting to me just watching them interact and watching them do things together. And it was just like they had never missed a day. So really, like the brotherhood and the relationships you form is going to last for a long time, man. I mean, 20 years later, I sit here and watch these guys, and actually this guy who had passed away, he fought a disease for a long time, and really, had some strength and that God had given him and shown it well. But the guy who actually preached the funeral, when I told Murray he was there, we went to the funeral that day, and he was sitting beside me, and I told him when we left, I said, man, that's one of the greatest sermons I've ever heard at a funeral ever preached. And the guy who got it and preached it was a guy who had, played with them, who had gotten saved and started to preach. And so, man, you sit there and you look, 20 years later, these guys are like they never missed a day. 20 years later, one of these guys who had been on a baseball field with them, been on a football field with them, he was standing up there preaching the guy's funeral. Man, that's commitment. They had been to the hospital to visit him. They had been around him. Not all of them. Not everybody's still going to be around or be together. But the majority of them, they had went and seen him. They had went and checked on him. And they still cared about him 20 years later. And you could still see the relationships they had built at work. And so when he got through preaching, 6 of those guys who had played ball with him got up, and 3 on each side grabbed each side of that casket and carried that man out to the hearse. And when they got to the graveyard, those 6 guys who had played ball with him picked up that casket and carried it out there for him to be buried. And that man preached the rest of the funeral there at the graveside. So you form a bond and a brotherhood that really other people don't understand and they don't get. But I want you to understand something. You know, you need to really think about your brother. You really need to think about these guys that are with you. Whenever you're doing things apart from the baseball field or at the baseball field or wherever you're at, you need to keep your brother in mind. You need to really keep him in mind. I want to read you some verses on John 3:19. You know John 3:16 well, but John 3:19 says, "This is the condemnation, that light has come into the world, and men love darkness rather than light, because their deeds were evil." And I want to tell you something. I want you to think about something. I know when I say this, I don't have to explain it. Like a lot of times when I'm preaching and I'm talking about something that people don't understand and they don't know what it is, I'll have to kind of preface it, or I have to say some things beforehand to explain what I was saying. But what I'm going to use is some terminology that you know is nodding it in. So I don't have to explain that. You know exactly what I'm talking about. You've probably heard that ad nauseum since you were a little kid. You've heard it a billion times. But like whenever you nod a ball and you watch it into your glove, and you pay attention to it while it comes and hits your glove. There are times that when a guy does not do that, and I've not played, like y'all have. I'm not an athlete. I'm not anything like that, man, at all. But I'm telling you, you watch the guy and sitting there and watching from the sideline, so to speak, or watching from the bleachers, you'll see the guy, and when he doesn't do that sometimes, the ball will hit his glove, he doesn't field it clean, and sometimes he does it because you can tell there's a fast dude that is hitting, and he knows he's got to get it there quick, and so he'll rush what he's doing, and he'll not take that small detail and finish it. And so the fear of what's going on overwhelms him and causes him to make that mistake. Then you have at other times, you've done it so much and you're so athletic and you are so gifted and so talented and so blessed to have the talent that you have that you don't think about it, you don't pay attention like you should, you take it too easy, and then you don't field it clean. And I want to tell you, spiritually, when I look back at my life, y'all guys made me think about something I really never thought about in my life. But spiritually, when I look back at my life, there was a time when I really didn't nod something in. I really didn't pay attention to that small detail, and I didn't see it through. And it was the most tragic mistake I ever made in my life. And it's because I really didn't watch it and follow through. Let me just tell you something. Whenever I was your age, whenever I was some of y'all's age, whenever I was 14, now I done started going down the wrong road. And when I say the wrong road, see in verse 19, it speaks about men love darkness rather than light. When it speaks about darkness, you think about sinful things and sinful practices, immoral things that people do, like drinking and drugs and women, all those things. And that was the road I was taking. That was the darkness for me. That's the thing I loved. That was my lifestyle. That's who I was. That's what I just loved to do on Friday night, Saturday night. That's who I was. That's what I love. But see, the darkness could also be you chasing power, you chasing titles, you chasing things, anything you put ahead of God, anything that takes the place of God in your life, because it said men love darkness rather than light. That darkness means spiritual darkness, and the light is Jesus Christ. If you flip back over to John chapter 1, you'll see that God said the light come into the world, and the light shined into darkness, but the darkness comprehended it not. In other words, Jesus Christ is a light. And so men love darkness, whatever it is you put in the place of God, instead of the light. They love the darkness more than they did the light. Well, whenever I was 14 years old, I went to Bristol Baptist Church on Wednesday night. And I'm telling you right now, I didn't go to church a whole lot back then. But there were some girls me and my buddy wanted to meet, and they were playing some volleyball at their church, and they invited us to go do that. And I was like, we're going to go do that. So we went to meet these girls. We went to go have a good time. They were eating that night, so we went and done it. And whenever we got there, I was sitting on the back side of the church. I was sitting in the back, the very back. And we were in there with a regular preacher, not the youth guy, because they were eating that night, so they all kind of came in there together. And it was Brother R.C. James. I don't know if y'all know him or not, Brother Rozzy. He's over at Patterson Baptist now, but he was at Bristol. And so he's preaching, and I'd never in my life, I got to think about this week, I'd never thought about it before. But not one time in my life before that night had God ever convicted me about my sins. Had God ever dealt with me about being saved. That was the first time I can really remember that God was dealing with me. And I remember that night. I'm telling you, Blake, I got up when he got through preaching, and he was talking about, I thought he was just talking about me. I thought Brother R.C. had been following me around all week, been looking in my window, been listening to me talk. I thought he was talking about me. And I was worried about going to hell. I was worried about all these things that he was talking about. And so I got up when he gave the invitation. I mean, I actually got up, man. And it was so out of character. And I walked down the aisle. And I stood, and we were on the right side, and Brother R.C. was standing right there. And I told him, I said, I want to come and do what you talked about. And I was willing to. And I remember he looked at me with those just gracious eyes and that, you know, that great voice he's got. I wish I had a voice like that. But he looked at me and he said, Greg, he said, do you understand that you're a sinner? And man, all the things I've done, I knew I was a sinner. Like some dudes, they got problems with trying to figure out they're a sinner because they live a little bit better than their neighbor. I wasn't that guy. You know, some of y'all guys are that guy. But I'm not that guy. I was not that guy. And I was sitting there looking at him, and he said, do you know you're a sinner? I said, yes, sir, I know I'm a sinner. And then he said, well, what you need to do, and I'm telling you what you need to do, is you need to repent of your sins, and you need to turn to God. He said, you need to turn away from your sin, and you need to turn to God. And I'm not lying. I'm not exaggerating. I'm telling you, I was sitting there thinking in my mind. You know how sometimes it's only a few seconds, but it feels like an eternity? I was sitting there in my mind, and I was thinking, he means I can't go out on Friday night anymore like that. He means I can't drink. He means I can't do all these other things I love to do. And I sat there, and I listened to him. And when he asked me if I wanted to pray the prayer, I prayed the prayer. And that Sunday I went and got baptized because I didn't want to disappoint my mama. I didn't want to disappoint my papa. He was a deacon at the church. I didn't want people to be disappointed in what I had done because I knew I'd walk down that aisle. I knew I had done those things. But in my mind, while he was sitting there telling me that I had to turn from my sins and my way of life, I was thinking, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. I'll pray this prayer, I'll do but I'm not doing that. And when I left there, it was like I went into a spiritual sleep for 6 years till I was 20 years old, and God dealt with me again. But one time God dealt with me before I was 20 years old. And that one time that God dealt with me, I walked out of there as lost as I could be. And I told God, and whether you say it to God or you say it to a preacher, you're saying the same thing. I said, God, I love what I'm doing more than I love you. And I'm not willing to give it up because I loved it. You understand that verse right there? I understand what it means because I love darkness rather than light. I loved it. It was down inside of me. It's what I love to do. I loved it. And so I left out of there, lost, and I went way downhill real fast. I tore up my relationships with my dad, with everybody. My grades went in the tank. I mean, I had a high grade level. I was in gifted. Everything went in the tank. I mean, I went way downhill after that day. But let me tell you something. 2 years later, if you fast forward to when I was 16, I remember I was the little guy. I was 12 or 13 when I went out with my older cousin for the first time. And I remember I got in a truck and I was like, I didn't know where they were going, exactly what they were doing, but I wanted to go where they were going and I wanted to do what they were doing. And so they taught me. They taught me what to say when I got home. They taught me what to do. They taught me how to do those things. And then I was 16 and I got my truck. I mean, that's a great day, right? And I went out a time or two, but my dad and my mom had talked, and my mom told me, she said, I wanted to go stay off the night and drive where I was going. And she said, well, I know y'all are going camping. I told her I was going camping. She said, but I want you to take your little brother with you. And he was 12 years old. She said, because I know if you take your little brother, you know, nothing crazy is going to go on. And so I remember my little brother, man. And if you want to know what my little brother looks like, he wasn't able to come tonight, but my little brother is like probably 6'2" now, you know, grown man. But he looked just like Nate except without curls. I mean, from the time he was little, you'd have swore he was his kid because, I mean, he looked just like Nate from the time he come up. And I was sitting there looking at my little brother with his big old eyes, you know. His head and his feet hadn't caught up to his eyes yet, you know what I mean, kind of awkward looking. He got in my truck, and I remember him looking at me and he said, Bubba, I'm ready to go. And you know, at that moment, he would have went anywhere I wanted to go. Whatever I was going to do, he wanted to go do. Wherever I was going to go, he wanted to go. And so when he got in that truck with me, I carried my 12-year-old little brother with me. And my little brother went with me a lot. He hung out with me a lot after that. And I mean, we were tight, and I taught him what I did. I taught him what to say. I taught him where to go. I taught him how to lie. I told him what to say if we got caught. I taught him, helped him get on that road that I was on. My little brother, 12 years old, man. And he would get out and stumble around, and I would laugh at it. And I would laugh about it. But I started to wake up when I was 20 years old. One morning I woke up. You say one morning? Yeah. I was sitting out in the front yard over on Blue Spruce. Me and my wife had been married for about 2 years. And I woke up that morning. And when I woke up that morning, and man, it was on Sunday morning. I woke up, I could just smell the puke still on my shirt. And I could see the sun coming up. It was freezing cold. It was like 40 degrees. And I was sleeping in my truck. You say, well, why'd you wake up in your truck? Because my wife wouldn't let me sleep in the house that night. I left on Friday. I didn't call her until I got back Sunday morning. At 1 o'clock in the morning, she hadn't heard or seen from me. And she might be a little short thing, but I'm going to tell you something. When she gets mad, you don't want to mess with her. So I went and slept in my truck. Some of you older guys in here, you say, amen. I don't want to mess with my wife when she's mad like that. But she was on me, and so I went out there and got in the truck. And I remember what she told me. Those little steely eyes, and she was mad as a hornet, and her face was red. And she said, if you don't quit drinking, I'm gone. We're going to get divorced. I cannot do this anymore. And so here I am. I come to the end of that road, that dead end. And I woke up that morning in that truck, and I spiritually woke up. God started dealing with me. And I said, I don't want to lose the thing I love most, which was her. I'm like, I've been living this life for a long time. I'm not happy. I'm dead on the inside. And so, long story short, a couple months later, I give my heart and my life to God. And I seen the light. See, I started waking up that day, that morning. Spiritually, God started dealing with me again. He hadn't since I was 14 years old. And then I got saved and I seen the light. And I went down on this side of the church over there at Yeoman's Chapel. I got saved. I gave my life to God. I prayed with Brother Randall. And it really was real that time. I didn't just get baptized and say a prayer and go out the same. I really was changed. I really knew that commitment I had to make that Brother R.C. had told me about. And I went and I made it. And when I got up from there were two things that really I thought about to start with. One was my dad. Let me tell you what the second thing was while I was standing. When I got up and stood right here and he told everybody what had just went on. You know who I was thinking about? My brother. My brother. I was thinking about, man, I put him on that road. And I know he chose to do what he did. But I'm telling you, when he got in my truck that day, some of you may have been in the same situation, man. You may have been the older guy. You may have been the younger guy. But you know what I'm saying. And, man, I prayed for him. And I would sit and I would go to the church and I would cry and pray that God would save him. I went and talked to him. I remember my dad got burnt. 65% of his body got burnt, third-degree burns. My brother walks out of there into where the hospital is up there in Augusta. My pastor, Randall Gunner, comes to check on me, and he asked my brother, he says, Chris, you want to give your life to God? You want to be saved? And you know what Chris always told me? He had the same line. He said, when I get ready, I'll call you, and I'll let you know. You see what I'm saying? And then until for like almost 20 years, I prayed for him. I remember going up to his house one night. We had a revival here. I was pastoring then. And I went up to his house one night and beat on his door. And I'm like, hey, I need to talk to you. The guy had preached about going to hell. The guy had talked about, eternity. And I had him on my mind. And I went and I sat at his table. And I told him, I said, God is dealing with you. I know it. You need to be saved. And he looked at me and he said, when I get ready, Bubba, I'll call you. And that just broke my heart. And that was an agony I had. And I lived with that guilt. I didn't care when I done it when I was 16, but man, for almost 20 years, that was on my heart and my mind. And then a couple of months ago, my brother, he started coming to church in the end of the summer. And he started coming every service. And then one day, during revival, this fall, he came and he gave his heart and his life to Christ. And I was so happy. I was so happy. You just don't understand. You don't know what it meant. But I'm telling you, I was so happy that now God had righted such a wrong I had done. And it made me so happy. And you see, some of you are dependent on that because, when you don't know how to ball in and the ball hits you in the glove and it falls to the side, there are times when there's a guy like me running. Oh, he may be a big guy. He may like to eat. You know what I'm saying? He may be slow. Or he may be a guy like me. I thought because my brother, my little brother, not the one I'm talking about, my little baby brother, who's 6 foot and 300 pounds, I thought because he could run as fast as me, he was fast. But you know what it was? I was really slow. You get what I mean? And so it may be a slow guy running to first, and you're able to get the ball, and you're able to still make the play. See, that's like what happened with my brother. You know, I goofed that up, man. I messed that up. I didn't see it into my heart. I didn't do everything I should have done that night at Bristol Baptist. But God, there was time to get it right. But you know, as better than I would ever know, that there are times when that ball hits your glove and it bounces too far, or the guy that's running is too fast. Because you don't nod it in, you can never make that up. You can never get it done. You could have got that guy out, but the only way you could have got him out was to do it right the first time. You don't have time to make it up later. There are people like that. There are guys like that. That you won't get a chance. There won't be an opportunity. So think about your brother, man. Don't just even think about you. Think about your brother. Because I know y'all care about one another. I know y'all love one another on one level or another. You know, it's like a great philosopher of my day said, we ride together and we die together. That's the mindset. I know he's really not a philosopher, he's a rapper, but I'm just telling you. That's what you do. I knew none of you would know that because it's so long ago. But think about your brother, man. Think about how what you're doing right now is going to impact people for the rest of your life. Think about the people you influence, because it's going to make a difference for eternity, man. I know you don't think nothing about some of these things, but the details are what kill you, because you know as well as I do, you can be as talented, you can work as hard, but if you don't do that one simple thing, it can mess it all up. And so think about your brother. The other verse I want to talk about is more of a congratulatory thing. And you know, if God's dealing with you, just talk to me later. Talk to one of your coaches. Talk to somebody. You know, talk to somebody. If you're having some struggles in your life, if you've been that guy one way or the other, talk to somebody, man. Because you know, all y'all together, 2015's family. Y'all know it's like a family. Y'all been together since y'all were kids, the parents, everybody. You ain't got long left together. All of you, the exact ones. So man, it'll make a difference if you get it right now. Between now and then, it can make a world of difference. Because like I couldn't fix what I did with my brother, but I did right and tried to tell him from then on when I got right. But there's another verse that's in 2 Thessalonians 3 verse 10. And this is a verse that you'll understand well, that a lot of people in our day and time don't understand, but it says, if a man doesn't work, he shouldn't eat. That's what it says. You say, well, what does that boil down to principle-wise with God? Well, it really tells what God thinks of what y'all done baseball-wise. Okay? God said if a man doesn't work, he shouldn't eat. Well, you know what? You boys tonight, y'all deserve to eat. Y'all deserve to eat. Because, man, you've worked hard. You have worked hard. And I don't understand all that you've done. I don't understand all that you've been through. You know, you hear people say things and make comments sometimes and it drives you crazy because they just don't get it. They don't get what it means to you. They don't get what it's going to mean to you for all these years to be able to say 2015 region champ. And I know you've got to finish it. I know you've got more to do. But man, you have worked hard. You deserve to eat. And what God is talking about, and whenever you go back over to Ecclesiastes, he says that a man should be able to enjoy the fruits of his labor. That when you work hard, it is a God-given thing to enjoy the fruits of your labor. And you guys have worked hard, man. It was like, I grew up on a farm, and I don't know exactly when I heard this, but I heard a lady say one time, she said, you know, they were talking about the drought that the farmers were going to be suffering, and she said, it really doesn't matter because even if the farmers don't make anything, I can go down to the supermarket and get me something to eat. I was like, man, she really don't get it. You know, and I've heard people, they don't even know like where bacon comes from. They don't get it. They think it comes from the supermarket. They don't get it comes from pigs. But I knew that I seen my dad worry when the crops weren't right. I knew that I got up in the middle of the night and moved water pipes to be able to irrigate. I knew that I would get up in the mornings with my dad before everybody got there, and we would stay till after everybody had left. I seen all the things that my dad did to be able to farm and to be able to make that, you know, make that crop and take that fruit or take whatever it was, those vegetables. We grew a lot of different stuff. And take it to the supermarket. So whenever I look at a squash or I look at the bacon or I look at whatever it is, I know what the guys have to go through to get it there. So I appreciate it on another level than somebody that thinks you just get it at the supermarket. And all those people in the stands that don't get it because they don't know. But y'all get it. Y'all get how hard you work. You get how you've been there at night at 8 o'clock hitting. You've been there on your days off from practicing, hitting. You've been out there fielding. You've been out there working. You've had your dad acting crazy when you were younger. You know what I'm saying? You had coaches in your ear, people on your head, people griping and complaining. You've had to fight for your spot, fight for your place. You know what you've been through. And so when you say 2015 region champs, you get it. And what God thinks about it is God respects you. God respects the sacrifice and the hard work that you have given and that you have put into what you've done. God respects that. And I respect you as men, because not many people now know what sacrifice and hard work is all about. But what y'all have done defines that. It really defines that. And you deserve to eat. And also the coaches, man, they deserve to eat the fruits of their labor, because I know good and well that they go through it with you. I mean, they hurt with you. They feel good with you. They have victory with you. They feel the defeat. And they worry about every little meticulous detail. They worry about every little thing to be able to set you up and make you successful. So you coaches tonight, you deserve to eat, man. You deserve the fruits of your labor. And the parents that are here tonight, man, you deserve some fruit too. Now, I don't know about the coaching. I'm not a coach. I don't know about the playing. I'm not an athlete. But I know about the parenting. I know what it's like to drive home on Saturday night at 2:30 in the morning from a ball tournament and get up on Sunday and preach all day. I get what that's like. I get what it's like to try to carry you back to the school and to practice 2 or 3 times a day. I get that. And so you parents tonight, you have worked hard, man, and we are very proud of what you've done. You deserve to eat tonight. You deserve the fruit of your labor. And we just want to say congratulations to you guys. We want to say congratulations to you coaches. And we just want to say congratulations to you parents. And just tell you that God really smiles upon sacrifice and hard work. You can't earn your salvation. You can't work to get it. But that doesn't mean that God doesn't love to see someone sacrifice and work hard. And y'all define that. And y'all represent it very well. And we appreciate that. And so is there anything else y'all want to